What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Keep Klimbing podcast. Back today, the last week of the PCDL. By Monday next week when this goes out, we'll be done, wrapped up for the summer. It's kind of starting through some of the reassessment process. It's the last games, for us for the summer, not necessarily the total end on Wednesday. After this, we'll do some more reassessments, recap meetings, reevaluations with the players to kind of overview, what all's happened this summer, strides and gains that they maybe have made, but also areas maybe that they haven't that they need to continue to focus on, when they go back to college and to campus. But the topic I wanted to discuss today, it's the end of July, and a lot of people are wrapping up, this kind of training calendar, training cycle. We talked about it a little bit, in previous episodes. I've been telling a lot of the players, coaches as well, that like these last couple of weeks is where the men separate themselves from the boys, jokingly. And I think it's extremely true. I've done it really poorly, and I feel like I've done it well in some spots. I've been around some people that have done it extremely well, but it's really easy this time of year to get to this time of year and already be thinking too much, maybe about the off season, about the next step. Recruiting and phone calls are about to start like August 1st. And all of those things are just distractions, into our overall execution and performance, that if you still have games and things to go, things to accomplish, that's got to stay the main thing. And I think, just from my personal experience, the further you go, the longer you play, the more distractions there always are, So just trying to figure out how to compartmentalize all that is extremely valuable for a player, especially a younger player that maybe gets thrusted into some levels that they're physically ready for and mentally need to, catch up a little bit, So, I want to just take some time to kind of discuss that. The really like root thought or core philosophy to me, note inside of this topic is to find an edge, a competitive edge, in adversity, failure, fatigue, uncomfortableness. And to give a better example, give a better idea on something like that is that like anytime something feels uncomfortable for you, I see this through a lens, on the field so very clearly, because that's, the life experiences that have shaped my mentality, right? That like, an example, that comes to mind very easily for me is in 2013, I was at Mizzou and we switched from the Big 12 to the SEC. Well, the very first weekend of SEC play, we hosted in Columbia, Missouri, and South Carolina, who was in the World Series the year before or a couple years before, supposed to be a really good team. They come up from Columbia, South Carolina. They come to Columbia, Missouri, and man, we shoveled snow off the field that whole week so that we could play, the middle of March. And all of you from the Midwest know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, we got the bright idea. We knew they were going to be uncomfortable when they came in. This really wasn't a me thing. Our entire team, our coaching staff, we knew that uncomfortableness was going to be our edge. So, we were taking it to extremes. We were going out to batting practice with short sleeves on. One dude went out with no shirt on. We were just like messing around, trying to show that, hey, you guys are uncomfortable and we're not. We're ready to play, because they're coming out in all their parkas and their face masks and their gloves. And they're like, holy cow, where the heck am I? They've been outside in January since the first of the year playing ball in 65 degrees on the field. We've been stuck inside playing and practicing the whole time. Other than our preseason or early season trips that we took, that was the first time we've been on our field probably since last October. And we had to shovel snow off the field to do it, So I just remembered the thing I told myself, was that, the how uncomfortable it is to hit. And obviously it's extremely uncomfortable to pitch in a situation like that too, but I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on how uncomfortable it was to hit, in a situation like that I kept telling myself we were just going to blink and be in the sixth inning. And if you believe in all at the the power of your mind, that's exactly what happened. I used that and use that as an edge, to trick myself, convince myself that was my edge against them in that moment. Pitched really well because of it. We ended up winning that series because of it, So really good, like tangible experience, and something that can be really applicable during the summer season is that, we've had an excessive heat warning here for a couple weeks, in Missouri. We're getting to the tail end of this season. It is so easy and natural, honestly, for all of us as human beings to start looking ahead at what else is to come, that you're kind of mailing it in on what you've already done. Or kind of the way this summer has unfolded for you. So easy to start to look over, some of these opportunities coming up ahead, and maybe anything that can be uncomfortable, whether it be, big picture fatigue setting in after a long season, whether it be the uncomfortableness of the weather or whatever have you, that you could take it all the way down into adult business and livelihood, that anytime you get into a situation where you feel uncomfortable and tired, you can trick yourself and you should be giddy to the opportunity that lies in front of you for the next, week or two, or whatever the task, in front of you is, when you feel tired and uncomfortable, knowing that everybody else does, and that this is my moment now to execute and take a stride, ahead of the competition. And I think when you start to look at, your adversity, uncomfortableness, fatigue, whatever, through a lens like that, you start to get yourself a little bit of a competitive advantage. It gives you something to focus on, because everybody can get excited about, an edge that they can give themselves. Especially the longer that you're around this game, you realize how hard it is to create an edge. There's so many people out there that are fighting for spots in your job just like you are. There's so many people out there with measurables just like you. There's so many people, and most of the time we spend our life just dying to be seen or evaluated, by the scout or the recruiter or the coach or whatever, that when you get that opportunity, we all know those opportunities don't come by that often. So when you find yourself in that opportunity, it's extremely easy to do it, man. In the championship game of a whatever, tournament or state championship, something earlier in the season, everybody's, energy is through the roof. No one's dog freaking tired, but what about a Tuesday game, with a guy in the stands here to watch you, and if you've already kind of shut it off, there's no turning it back on. That's some of my biggest messages to these guys, and I try to convince myself of this, that you can't turn it on and turn it off. You can't execute at an elite level like that. It's either on or it's off, and once it's off, it's probably done for that day, So showing up here, switch on, ready to go, ready to compete. There's just one way to do things. I love the Nick Saban quote. He's got at the podium. He's got a bunch of them at the podium, but just talking about what it looks like to be successful, It really just takes what it takes is the message from it. It just takes what it takes. There's really one look, at this from a discipline, focus, energy, attitude, effort. That's what success looks like, and that's the switch on mentality. The switch off mentality is, taking breathers in between reps, or taking plays off, or maybe just mentally, focus wise, not at 100%, so something kind of gets by you as a player, and you weren't necessarily going into the rep thinking I'm going to take a play off, but because of the lack of 100% attention and focus on the details, that play got past you, got past you, and that to the coaches or the evaluators watching it, it looks like maybe the play was taken off, so those are just some of the lessons from life that can be applied through sport, that I feel like I've learned through sport, that I think other people, can be aware of and see things, the opportunity that adversity or uncomfortableness, when you go into a situation, whether it be work or, sports athletically like this, whether it be, fatigue, whether it be weather induced, there's so many different things, what an opportunity some of that can be through you, for you, through a different lens through your mind. And that's really all it comes down to, is the way that you're perceiving, the opportunity. I think that's something that's extremely valuable. So if you can take that and apply that today, this week, this year into something that you're doing, I know that'll, produce some success for you. It's extremely challenging to do, and I jokingly kind of said it earlier. You're tricking yourself at some points because holy cow, I'm so dog freaking tired, or this weather absolutely sucks. That really the only chance I have for survival is tricking my brain into thinking it's all good. So whatever the case may be. I know work can get grindy. I know phone calls can get grindy. I know your job can get grindy. I know that out here on July 28th can get grindy. All these different factors. Elite, successful people are just rarely comfortable, and I think people think of things through this lens of like, oh, if I just get to here, then I'll be good and I can relax, or especially as adults, I jokingly say this all the time with my wife. We're always saying like, well, I think it'll slow down in 3 months. Like it's never slowed down. It's never going to slow down to the day that you die. And you just get more comfortable being uncomfortable and operating at a high clip if that's what you want to do. If you're looking to achieve success and be elite in a category that you're in, that's just what it's going to take. So really appreciate you guys checking out this episode. If something made you think, or made you smile, or you have a personal story or experience that you felt that through, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.